So based on some new reporting, it looks like we can add Peter Navarro to the list of Trump lackeys who tried to corruptly overturn the election results. You know, at the rate we're going, we're gonna need a bigger indictment because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So let's take on two stories that broke today. First, Peter Navarro. Yes, another Trump lackey who we now know was also involved in trying to corruptly overturn the results of the presidential election. And the second story, we learned that Attorney General Merrick Garland is set to speak tomorrow about the insurrection investigation. But let's take on this Peter Navarro reporting first. Remember this guy? He is an economist that Trump brought into the administration. He then anointed himself a COVID expert, and now we know he also fancied himself something of an election law authority. And here is today's reporting by Rolling Stone magazine. Peter Navarro. Trump distributed bogus election fraud research to every congressional Republican. And the article begins, when the 2020 election didn't go Trump's way, Peter Navarro, an economist whom Donald Trump tapped to lead his trade war against China, didn't stay in his lane at the White House. He'd already inserted himself in the administration's botched pandemic response. And after the 2020 vote, Navarro began compiling a series of inflammatory dossiers on the outcome, with names like The Immaculate Deception, The Art of the Steal, and Yes, Trump Won, pushing the big lie that the election was stolen. Navarro's reports included debunked allegations of, quote, outright voter fraud, close quote, across 6 battleground states, including, quote, the large-scale manufacturing of fake ballots, bribery, and dead voters, close quote, as well as roundly discredited conspiracy theories alleging sordid connections between voting machine companies, a former Venezuelan dictator, the Clinton Foundation, and, of course, George Soros. Unlike most amateur hour election sleuths, however, Navarro had direct access to the aggrieved president. In an extended interview with Rolling Stone, Navarro revealed that he personally briefed Trump on his research in the Oval Office and that Trump directed on the spot that Navarro's findings be distributed to the entire GOP conference on Capitol Hill. And that reporting prompted headlines like this one in Salon. Ex-Trump aide Peter Navarro says 100 House members were ready to carry out election coup. You know, if you look up the term your own worst enemy in Webster's, you just might see a picture of Peter Navarro. And friends, everything we're learning about the conduct of these Trump lackeys and their efforts to try to undermine Joe Biden's win and install Donald Trump for a second term, it has to be viewed against Trump's own administration officials, like Bill Barr, saying there was no fraud undermining Joe Biden's win. It has to be viewed against Donald Trump's own administration officials like Christopher Krebs saying this was the most secure presidential election in American history, the same thing Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security said. But now we've got Peter Navarro, and we can add him to the growing list of the Trump lackeys and loyalists who wanted to corruptly overturn the results of the presidential election. You know, you can add Navarro to the list that includes guys like Jeffrey Clark, Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Mo Brooks, John Eastman, Don Jr. It's like all these characters are vying to be the most involved, the most outrageous, the most impressive co-conspirators. So yeah, we're gonna need a bigger indictment. So let's turn briefly to the second breaking story of the day. This from the Washington Post. Attorney General Garland plans speech on January 6 investigation for Wednesday. And that development prompted op-eds and columns with titles like, "What Merrick Garland Should Say About January 6." Well, let me tell you what he shouldn't say, and I'm quite sure he won't say. He won't say who the Department of Justice is investigating, who among the funders, the planners, the organizers, the inciters of the insurrection might be in DOJ's crosshairs. He won't tell us anything about that. He won't tell us who he intends to indict in the future. I predict he will not even utter Donald Trump's name during his comments tomorrow. You know, I was a prosecutor for 30 years. I never once talked about who I was investigating or who I might be indicting in the future. So we're not going to hear any of that from Merrick Garland. What I will be listening for, listening closely and intently, is for some reassurance that the Department of Justice intends to hold everyone accountable that participated in the attempted overthrow of our democracy, and that DOJ intends to hold them all accountable regardless of how powerful they are, how influential they are, how connected they are, whether they're political figures, current or former. That's what I'll be listening for. And after we hear Merrick Garland's comments tomorrow, we'll circle back and we'll talk about what we heard. But I actually am somewhat optimistic that tomorrow will end up being a pretty good day on the justice front. And justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.